Joining me now at the Okta Gov Identity Summit is Jameeka Greene, CISO of Auth0. Jameeka, welcome. What are the biggest challenges government agencies still face in moving towards more modern and centralized identity management capabilities?
Well, I think the government, unlike industry, the government has a scale challenge that most industry doesn't have. I've worked at Lockheed Martin, Nike. I think the most employees we had was somewhere around 150,000. The government has a much larger problem than that. And I think that is the challenge that we have to help solve in industry is how do you scale and what do those personas look like? I'm the executive sponsor for the Department of Veterans Affairs. And when we look at those personas, they're vastly different than what's working in industry. You have, a transition of an active duty person into Veterans Affairs, healthcare, home ownership. There's all these different personas. And when you think about it, it fits the customer identity persona, but not really, because veterans are still very much a part of the US government. And so I think that is the challenge, is that these personas that we often have, it's like you have an employee or you don't. It's a leaver, it's a termination, or it's a new hire. The government has a different kind of challenge. And I think that challenge of scale and also the uniqueness of the persona of the employees of the government is one of the biggest challenges that they face in terms of identity.
Sticking with the topic of identity, how are recent gains in identity management capabilities translating into a better customer experience with the public and American citizens?
So one of the things I like to say is that finance never makes it hard for us to spend money, and security should not create so much friction that users abandon it, and we're getting there. I think with like FIDO and FIDO2 and WebAuthn and the introduction of biometrics, password lists, and eventually login lists, we're making great strides in making security frictionless for the user. And so when we think about our mobile devices or our authentication that we offer, Okta has FastPass. We have a ton of different technologies that are now in place that allow users to do what they do naturally, but also be secure. Biometrics is one of my favorite technologies to use within security because it's who we are. It's using our identity, our face scan, our fingerprint. It's something that's very natural to us to use to authenticate. And it's a build upon authentication. And so at some point you do enter a password, but then you almost never enter it again. And so I think in terms of industry, we're really starting to build with those technologies use in mind and make it so much easier for the user to actually be the front lines of security for us and not the weakest link anymore. There really is a changing, I think, of the tide around the individual user, around the customer and the consumer, and that we have to leverage their expertise and their ability to understand security to help secure us as well.
Jameeka, as we close out, how are modern cloud-based identity platforms helping to accelerate the government's efforts to meet the administration's zero trust security mandates?
We are all in on public-private partnership. We think that our partnership with the government is critical, not just to our success, but to the success of the nation and the world as a whole. And so I think our partnerships with the government, the way that we are starting to work together collaboratively, one of the things as a CISO that our community continues to talk about is, as we disclose, it has previously been like a punitive thing. That's going away. It's going to now collaboration, sharing of threat intelligence. And I think that partnership is going to move the needle so much with the government. And so I'm really excited about the future of what's happening in this public-private partnership. And I think that when we get done in the next couple of years, we're moving so much faster than we've ever moved before. But in the next couple of years, I think that we're going to start to see that come to fruition in public and in private sector.
Jameeka, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.